Hi, this is retired Sergeant Steve Miller, and you are watching Planet Green Trees.
Here's Michael Camorn at Green Trees.
Boom. All right, can you hear me?
Boom.
Yes.
All right, good. Fantastic. We are
I was
back
union
Planet
for
Green
a
Trees.
lot of years.
We're very excited to have our next guest, Andrew BRISBO, the Executive Director of the Marijuana Regulatory Agency out of Lansing, Michigan. We understand it's past his bedtime, and we want to be as quick as we can with this. First of all, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you joining us. Can't tell you how
My
much.
pleasure. Good to be on with you, Michael.
And we have a bunch of cannabis advocates. So you need to know Jamie Lowell. You talk to Alyssa and lawyers and around surrounding here. But want to ask you a few questions. First of all, dispel the rumor, if you can, of that the requirement that the LARA will only grant licenses to recreational applications if you have a medical MMFLA license first, or at least until December of 2021. There was some talk that was a consideration that may be lifted, and the MRA does have the authority to amend the rules to move the program forward. That's not the exact language, but that's the idea. What do you say?
Well, we haven't made a decision yet. We've started to engage with stakeholders because we do have the ability to change that requirement 1 year after we start taking applications. So we started taking applications last November. So we thought it was good to start the conversation as early as possible about what the feelings were on opening up that window a little bit earlier. Not surprisingly, we got varied feedback. The statute lays out a couple of conditions under which we could change the criteria. So it's good to start the conversation. I think everyone operating in the space as well as consumers need to have as much information as early as possible so they can be informed and make decisions. But I don't like to make decisions in a vacuum. I think it's important to consider all perspectives. So we're in the process of gathering on that now.
Can you share with us what some of those factors may be in terms of, at least the arguments objectively why it would be a good idea now, and who would be the naysayers for it happening now instead of waiting until 2021 or 22?
Well, we have to look at the statutory criteria. So it's to provide access in rural areas. It's to combat the illicit market. It's to, sustain the legalized market. The broad criteria. So I think some of the arguments we're hearing on both sides are, a little more nuanced. Those businesses currently in the industry now, obviously profits are pretty slim in the beginning. It's pretty expensive to get involved. And so they're trying to recoup their initial investment and be profitable. And for the market to be sustained and for us to ensure that we're providing the safest possible access for consumers, we want businesses to be successful. So that's one consideration. There's been a lot of discussion about the social equity aspect as well. For everyone who may be low income, may have been directly impacted by the war on drugs, for them to take those 2 steps to get through the medical process and get licensed there, where there's a higher barrier for entry, there are more disqualifying convictions in the statute in order to gain access to the adult use market is very challenging. The city of Detroit's a great example. I think they're stalled on implementing an authorizing ordinance under the MRA because they want to ensure that they've sort of fully baked a concept on honoring social equity at the local level. But if they were to move forward now, then it's very restricted in terms of who can get in. But that environment's changing too. We just released the fees for fiscal year 21, and they're more than cut in half on the medical side. So that's reducing those barriers a bit. And there's a lot of discussion about the market overall, where that's heading at the same time, because even with that restriction, as the adult use market starts to flourish on the commercial side, we see fewer businesses interested in renewing those licenses on the medical side. So, the commercial industry itself is already making a transition to the adult use market. So we're really trying to think ahead to those steps as well. But I mean, they're valid markets, arguments on both sides. And we're going to take time and make sure that we make a good decision there.
What do you?
I have a quick question to follow up from that. Sorry, Michael, but you said there was a lot of people who are not renewing their medical license after getting recreational. Is that going to be a concern going forward? And would you consider bringing caregivers back into the market to supply the medical market if licensees are not renewing their medical licenses after getting recreational?
Well, despite the fact we've heard discussion certainly about not renewing licenses, we still see increased supply on the medical side. So, for example, I was just looking at numbers today that over 60% of the flower available at medical provisioning centers now was produced in the commercial market. Initially it was closer to 90% had come from outside the commercial market, so from the caregiver market. So it's becoming more sustainable. More products are available that were produced in that market. But overall, I think the success of businesses provide access for both patients as well as adult use consumers. And we sort of have this arbitrary legal distinction now. We have most of the facilities that we regulate. If they're an adult use facility, they're also a medical facility. So we're really issuing them 2 licenses to do one thing. Same plants, by and large, the same products. I think when we consider how best to ensure continuous access for patients, we need to look at the market overall versus kind of distinguishing whether a facility is medical or adult use long term.